In this video, I'm going to share a common approach to team building and why it typically is counterproductive. And then I'll share an approach that has much more impact in creating a more cooperative, motivated, and content team. I'm Jeff Mowatt. For over 30 years, managers have brought me in to work with their teams to create outstanding customer experience. And often during that time, we talk about the importance of teamwork and team building. Well, what we find is one of the more common myths I've come to understand about how do you create a more cooperative team is, okay, well, let's just go off. Let's get them together. We'll have in the summertime, maybe a company picnic, or in December, we're going to do a holiday meal. And that's a great way of building the team. Well, think about that for a second, because what we find is that often when you get people together for some fancy meal, let's say in December, well, a lot of the extroverts, they may love the idea, hey, let's have a party. But the reality is that most people would not describe themselves as being extroverts. In fact, I'm one of them. I'm fine working a room and I'm a professional speaker, get in front of a lot of people. But when it comes to being around crowds and a lot of people I don't know, yeah, I can do that, but I have to put a lot of energy into that sort of thing. I think what you're going to find is that a lot of your employees are not as extroverted as you may think. And if it comes to bringing their spouses or sweethearts along, the spouses or sweethearts may be going, oh, I don't want to go to this thing. Okay, it's a free meal. Let's get in. Let's get out of there. And you got to understand, I think, when we think about it, and we need to understand some of the dynamics that happen when you have, let's say, a fancy meal of everybody getting together. First of all, okay, is there a seating plan? Who's going to sit with who? Which means that, okay, are the popular people, they all sit together? This is like high school when you can end up with a bunch of people who are maybe less of extroverts and, management, they sit with each other. What's the ranking here? There's all this stuff that actually can create more animosity than team building just before people even sit down. And then, of course, you have the meal. And during the meal, they're often with a fancy meal, there's going to be wine or alcohol served. And because some people are trying to allay their anxieties, well, you get people saying things that maybe are a little inappropriate to be said at a company event. Or heaven forbid, you've got some underlying flirtations that were happening out there and people end up doing things because they're less inhibited. Maybe they drank a little more than they should have. And you can end up with some sort of a sexual harassment lawsuit happening within your team that you weren't counting on when you planned this thing. Of course, then look at the expense of these. If we're going to have a meal in December when most restaurants and hotels are booked, especially on a Saturday night, weekend type of thing, sometimes years in advance, it's not going to be cheap. You're adding on the cost of alcohol. Then if you're smart, we're also arranging for transportation for them because we don't want them taking company vehicles and drinking, for heaven's sake. Or they might be staying overnight at a hotel, in which case we're spending even more money. So these things are expensive. We're setting ourselves up for potential liabilities and ill feelings. The bottom line is meals are a perk. They're not a team building event. In fact, I would suggest that rather than having a fancy dinner or two a year, that you put it to your employees and ask them, okay, what would you prefer? We can have 1 or 2 fancy meals a year, or once a month, we'll bring in pizza on Friday for lunch, and everybody gets to have it. Now, of course, there's no booze. It's going to cost you a lot less. You got less of the group dynamics. And when everybody gets together to grab a piece of pizza, you might have people from different departments that get together and chat. I guarantee you that pizza is going to win over the fancy sit-down meals. If we want to look at team building, consider the example of a professional sports team where these gifted athletes, they aren't necessarily getting along with one another. They're maybe competing for the same spots, but when they're on the ice, they all have a common goal. In other words, teamwork is a byproduct of having a common goal. So the question is, what does work to create a more cohesive team? And what does work is when we focus much more of our attention on creating our common goal, and that is to create outstanding internal and external customer experiences. When everybody's focused on a common goal, like taking care of the internal and external customers, we don't worry about pettiness that happens. There's an expression down in Texas. They say that a dog on a hunt doesn't know it's got fleas. You can't get that kind of information just anywhere, you realize. So bottom line, meals are not team building experiences. They are perks. You want team building experience, focus on customer experience, and team building is the byproduct offshoot. I hope you found that to be helpful. And if you did, please be sure to add your comments below and remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our tips. And if you'd like more of these tips, please go to jeffsbusinesstips.com for more of this. See you next time.